Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first meeting of the year for Fairfax County Special Education PTA. We're very excited to have all of you with us tonight. And how did my camera get turned off? Thank you. There we go. Hi, everyone. We are very excited tonight to welcome three very special guests from FCPS, Dr. Geovanny Ponce, our new Chief of Schools, Dr. Nardos King, who is now the official Chief Equity Officer, who's been serving in an interim role in that for the past couple of years, and Dr. Terri Edmunds-Heard, our new Interim Assistant Superintendent of Special Services. We are very excited to have them with us tonight. I am your president for the year, Amanda Campbell. I welcome you all to start the year, and I am looking forward to a fantastic start to the year. We have some really great plans that we're looking forward to sharing with you as the night goes on tonight. And I'll share a little bit more about myself later, because we really wanted to start this meeting off with allowing our special guests to introduce themselves to you. And we do have some questions for a short question and answer session after that. And not for the first time, but we are continuing our work to make these meetings more accessible to a wider variety of people. So we do have Spanish interpretation with us tonight. Our interpreter tonight is Vicky Reg. Did I say it correctly?
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm going to let her introduce herself so that we can start the interpretation.
Buenas noches. Soy Vicky Reg y soy una de las traductoras con las escuelas públicas del condado de Fairfax. Estaré aquí traduciendo durante toda la reunión.
Right. We're going to start the interpretation. So if that is support that you need, you should see the globe to join shortly.
Tendrá que ver una bola de mundo, un icono al final, al fondo de la pantalla que puede apretar para poder escuchar toda la reunión en español.
And there we go. We should be started with the interpretation. And we are going to move on to, before we get into just a very brief introduction, welcome to those of you who are new to SEPTA. SEPTA is a district-wide PTA. We're very similar to your local unit. Our mission is on the screen: to empower and connect families and students and staff to ensure students with disabilities develop to their full potential as individuals and community members. So that's really at the heart of everything we do: community, education, and advocacy. Those are three words you'll hear from us a lot. And we are looking forward to a great year of continuing that work and continuing to build the relationships with FCPS that we have been very grateful to build over the last 6 years. And we are just 6 years old. We're still very new to this. As I said, communication, education, advocacy, that's our goals. And I will be fully transparent. I am not one who's going to read every single thing on the PowerPoint slides, because nobody likes that. But we will cover some of that more a little bit later as we get into our meeting as well. So let's moving on. As I said, we have Dr. Geovanny Ponce, our Chief of Schools, Dr. Nardos King, our Chief Equity Officer, and Dr. Terri Edmunds-Heard, our new Interim Assistant Superintendent of DSS. So I'm going to start with Dr. Geovanny Ponce. If you could take a few minutes to introduce yourself. Oh, we cannot hear you, Dr. Ponce.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Geovanny Ponce. I was born in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, Central America. Moved to United States in 1998, and I moved to Houston, ISD, to work as a bilingual teacher. I was in Houston ISD for 25 years. I started as a substitute teacher. I had different positions in Houston ISD, bilingual teacher, Spanish teacher, math teacher, history teacher, assistant principal, middle school principal, high school principal, area superintendent. This is pretty much like a RAS here. regional assistant superintendent, then assistant superintendent of high schools, and lately my beloved Fairfax, that I believe is my place. I think that my background, I was just started it to actually come here to Fairfax and do the very best of me. I'm very proud, Hispanic, and I love what I do, and I'm here to support. I'm chief of schools. I'm over all 6 regions, and I'm not only entitled, but I'm willing to support all 6 regions and make sure that the children receive a quality education.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ponce. Dr. King, can you introduce yourself?
Well, good evening again, everybody. My name is Nardos King, and I am starting my 26th year in Fairfax County, although we lived here in Fairfax County for 28 years. My husband is retired military, so we served our country for 25 years and landed here in Great Fairfax County, where we were able to raise our children, who both attended Fairfax County Public Schools, went away to college, got jobs, got married, and I'm recently a new grandmother, 18-month-old grandson. That's the thing that I'm most proud about right now in my life. And those of you who haven't had grandkids yet, just wait. It's the best thing because you get to have all the fun and send them home with the kids to stay up all night. So that's the part I love most. It's paybacks. I started my career in education as a support staff member in many different schools in Lawton, Oklahoma, in Germany, and then here in Fairfax County. Came to Fairfax County in 1995 and was the principal's secretary at Hunt Valley Elementary School. I moved over to become the finance tech at Mount Vernon High School. Then I became an instructional assistant in a special education class and fell in love with that and went back and got my master's in special education, became a special education teacher for 5 years at Mount Vernon High School, then an assistant principal, then the principal for 9 years. I left Fairfax County in 2015 and I went to work in Baltimore County as an assistant superintendent of high schools. I worked there for 3 years and then came back to Fairfax County. I was an executive principal in Region 1 for a year, then was hired to be the region assistant superintendent in Region 3. Then in 2021, Scott told me to take a temporary position, and he did say temporary, to be the chief equity officer when Lisa Williams had to leave us, unfortunately. And I stayed in that role and then was appointed officially as the chief equity officer in this past July. So I'm excited to be here tonight. I am a strong advocate of special education students and our support for special education students. And my work implores us to make sure that we are providing an education opportunity so that all of our students can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. King. And Dr. Edmunds-Heard, can you take a moment, please?
Sure. I hope you can hear me. Yes? Okay. Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. I'm the interim assistant superintendent for the Department of Special Services, of course, with the county. I was just appointed to this position in July of this year. I've got some big shoes to fill, of course, coming behind Dr. Boyd as well. I am a special education teacher with training in that area. I was a special education teacher for several years, teaching self-contained as well as inclusion classes too as well. I have a bachelor's degree in special education from Virginia Commonwealth University and a master's in special education as well from Vanderbilt University, Peabody College. I was, like I said, I was a special educator for many years. A lot of my experience has been in North Carolina as well as Tennessee and here in Virginia. I started my teaching career in Richmond, Virginia after I graduated from VCU. And then I came to Fairfax for several years before getting married. And then once I got married, I went off to a variety of states where I continued to work. We ended up landing in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I, again, started out as a special education teacher. I then received I went back to school and got my degree in school administration. And from there, I became an assistant principal. From there, a principal. I led 2 schools in North Carolina, 2 elementary schools. And then we ended up coming back here to Northern Virginia, to the Northern Virginia area. So I returned back to Fairfax again, and I've now been here for 10 years. I was started out as the elementary principal at Franconia Elementary School, and then I moved into the region in the central office. I worked in Region 4 as the executive principal there, and Region 5 as executive principal. And then Dr. Reed had a similar conversation with me that Dr. Brabrand had with Dr. King, and asked me about taking on the interim position as the assistant superintendent for the Department of Special Services. And I'm here before you today, working in that position. I too have a big heart for students with disabilities and ensuring that they have, solid opportunities, that they get all of the rights and things that they are deserving so that they can have a great education in our system. And I'm dedicated to their growth and development, and securing and supporting great outcomes for every student that we have that has an IEP or is being served in any kind of way with any type of disability. On the personal side, I have 2 grown children too as well. I have and that's some of my most proudest times is with my children, of course. I have a daughter who's a nurse practitioner. She lives in Richmond, Virginia. And my son has a business degree, which he's working for Microsoft, and he lives here in the area in Alexandria. So very, very proud of them. I'll throw my husband in there too. That's one of the reasons why I've traveled around so many places. My husband is an engineer, and it's taken him to many great places in the world, and proud to be married for 32 years. So it's a little bit on the personal side for me. So thank you all for having me. I'm learning a lot by being in our meetings, and looking forward to this year together as well.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on 32 years.
Yep.
I'm gonna pin Dr. King and Dr. Ponce to join everyone. Let's see. And there should be. There we go. There we go. We are going to start with the question and answer session. And since we did start a little bit late, are you guys okay with going to say about 7:35 or so? All right. Thank you so much for your flexibility. Thank you. We appreciate that. For Dr. Ponce, since your position is new to FCPS, was newly created with Dr. Reed this summer, can you explain a bit more about what the Chief of School does? And is this intended to increase accountability and consistency across all sites in the district?
So, can you hear me? I'm just making sure. Yes. So what my position that we're gonna do is, number one, like you said, is consistency across all 6 areas. This is number 1 goal. Also, 3 goals is high support for all areas to make sure that all schools, so almost 200 schools and centers will receive the same support. This is number 1. Number 2 is have expectation for every single area as well, and high accountability. So we're gonna have everybody's gonna be accountable and to make sure that the children receive the best educational that they deserve. My office is going to oversee that every single area. Also, everything that goes down, for example, area superintendent, EPs, principals, and everybody else in the school. Also, the chief of schools is going to supervise the department school support as well, to make sure that the schools will receive the support that they need. And also we're going to work with non-traditional schools. So this is what we're gonna be doing, but the most important part is that we have everybody accountable, but consistency across all areas as well. I cannot hear you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your response. I'm going to start off with some questions that we did collect ahead of time. For those in attendance, if you do have additional questions, please add them in the chat. Because we have a short time period, I can't guarantee we will get to all of them, but please share any additional questions that you have. Dr. Edmunds-Heard, what is FCPS currently doing to support and mentor the large number of provisionally licensed special education teachers? And what more are you hoping to do moving forward?
Well, we are working diligently in that area. We have a training program that we have in place for our teachers to be able to have training. We have gathered them into a cohort, and LA Stack is working along. As a matter of fact, I have a meeting with her on tomorrow so that I can learn more about the training that's being provided to them. Also, our team was a part of Great Beginnings. So for the new folks that were coming in, they're required to go to our Great Beginnings program at the beginning of the year. And our team was there providing as a part of the presentation team for that, providing training on the different types of things as they enter into the profession, because we definitely want to do all that we can to keep them, to help them, support them, and to keep them, to retain them in our schools too as well. Throughout the year, the district provided a department chair over the last 2 years. I think that they've been in place now. There's a department chair in every school, and the department chair hopefully is being able to provide some coaching and support to our teachers to help them along the way. So that would be another support for them. And our procedural department works with our department chairs. So in providing training to the department chairs, and they turn around and they should be able to support our new teachers and anyone who's really not necessarily a brand new teacher to the profession in special education, but those who might be coming in from another district or another area, being able to provide them with support, because that was the main goal of us putting our department chairs or providing the department chair position, was to be able to provide the coaching and things that's needed for our teachers, because we know that's important. Dr. Reed brought up to me today that there's a concern with our new teachers getting the C-STARS training that is needed. So that's an area that we will be focusing on over the next month to make sure that we can get them fully trained, ready to take on C-STARS and be able to provide support. So when we hear that there's a need, we try to do that as well. Just over the last several weeks, we have implemented DSS briefings too, and that's more so working with our principals, but we hope that in turn will help to support our teachers, so that if they know more about the new or the things that we're having challenges with, if we're able to brief them on those things, they can go back and be able to support our staff. So those are just some of the things that we're doing to support new teachers and new staff that are coming on in our special education classrooms.
Thank you. As a follow-up, since you brought up the department chair position, I believe it's new at the elementary level, but hasn't been new at the secondary level.
That is correct.
We have heard from elementary department chairs concerns about the fact that when that position was created, it was intended to not carry a caseload, so that the department chairs would be able to have that time to do that coaching and do that mentoring. But what we are hearing in practice is that because of the special education teacher shortage, these department chairs are still also carrying caseloads. So I guess my follow-up question would be, how aware of that issue is DSS, and what steps, if any, are being taken to help address that, so that our department chairs do have the time to do that kind of coaching and mentoring?
Well, I have to say that we are working on that in a layered fashion. We have, at the beginning of the year, we had quite a few vacancies within our special education classrooms. So we dispatched about 27 of our DSS staff members, matched them up with those positions that were vacant, because we wanted to make sure that there was a teacher in every classroom in front of every child. So we dispatched about 27 members of our team to go be in those classrooms. Since the beginning of the school year, We are down to now 7 of those staff members are still, in there, in those classrooms and serving. So we continue to meet with our human resources. We have a little small team that meets. We go through those vacancies and trying to make sure that we're sending out resumes as we get them, working with our human resources department as well, to try to take care of that issue. But we still are going to have some of our department chairs that are still carrying a caseload because you might have a substitute that's filling that position. So we're just continuing to work with our human resources department on that area. And it is an area that we're going to have to focus on throughout the entire school year into next year so that we can be better prepared to have all of our vacancies filled at the beginning of the year with a certified teacher. That would definitely be our goal. But if they're not certified, sometimes our department chairs are having to take on that role. And until we get some better solutions to the, as you mentioned, to the critical shortage that we have in this area, that's going to continue to be a challenge for us. And we are trying to make sure that we put students first, that we make sure that our children are being served first. And that might be the case with some of our department chairs. But as we work through this first layer of folks who've been assigned to schools, that's our next thing that we're looking at too as well. What are our caseloads looking like? How many students do our teachers have? We have a head count that's going to be coming up soon. So we're preparing for that as we go along so that we can know, where are weak points? How many of our department chairs actually have a caseload, and what can we do to support them more? I think you're on mute still.
Thank you.
You go. There you go.
We will continue to follow up on this with you as we meet throughout the year, as I'm sure that's not surprising.
No, not at
and
all.
we will also continue to bring this issue up with our members and make sure you are all briefed as well as to what progress is happening on this as best that we can. I do want to give Dr. King a question also, and then I do see some questions are coming into the chat. Lauren, if you could help go through some of those and forward them or draw my attention to them, or just raise your hand and you can ask them. That would be great. Dr. King, can you speak about special education as an equity issue, and how does your office support special education students specifically?
Thank you for the question. So, equity is about making sure that all of our students have access and opportunities. And particularly, when we talk about our special education students, their access and opportunity is often limited based on people's perceptions about their ability to do well in, let's say, an advanced academic class. So I work very closely with Dr. Ponce and with our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Sloan Presidio, and my job and role is to make sure that in conversations that we're having, that I'm the voice of our students who are often marginalized in our system, those students who historically have not had access and opportunity to all the great things that Fairfax County offers, specifically, and I know that as parents of special education students sometimes feel let down more than any other student that we service, right? Because their child has unique needs. And sometimes because our system is so big, right, and every need is different, it's very hard sometimes for us to dig deep and make sure that we are supporting every student by name and by need is a term that we used to use a lot in Fairfax. So, again, parents reach out to me when they have individual concerns, and I help support them through our system to get them to the right person. I work closely with Dr. Terri Edmunds-Heard as well to ensure that when inequitable incidences show up, that I am the voice at the table for that. I want to recommend something as parents in our system, because I see some of the questions that are coming in the chat as well. You are, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, right? Because, I was a student, my child had an IEP when she was in primary school here in Fairfax, when she was in earlier grades. And I recognized my responsibility in advocating, right? But continue to partner with our departments, right? Continue to invite us to your meetings when you have concerns that pop up. But as parents, continue to fight for your kids every day. And if you think you're a nuisance to somebody, that's okay. Right? Because I always often say to people that I can maintain professionalism. but I become mama bear when you mess with my cubs, right? And my cubs are now 34 and 31. But if you mess with my cubs, I'm coming for you. I'm going to maintain professionalism when I come, but I'm going to ask the questions and I'm not going to go away until I'm satisfied with the answer. And that's what you should do, not only as individual parents, but as an organization, right? Continue to pressure us and let us know and bring to our attention when we're falling short at meeting the needs of your kids. Like I said, you have strong advocates. There are a lot of people in leadership whose path went through special education through the classroom. So we understand and know the unique needs of our students with disabilities, and we're here to help. So again, specifically, my background is brought to the table when we have conversations and questions about, the numbers, when we're looking at numbers across the board. Particularly right now, I'm looking at our advanced academic classes, and we don't have enough students who have IEPs and 504s represented in those classes. And we're having those conversations not only with Dr. Ponce through his office and running through the regions, but also through our curriculum. And how are we making sure that our students show up in ways that are going to support their ability to access all that we offer. So again, continue to push us, have high expectations for your kids in the classroom. And if things are not going right in your school, reach out to the teacher first. If the teacher is not providing you with the information that you need, go to the administration. If the administration is not providing you with the information that you need, take it to the region. If the region is still not giving you what you need, go to Dr. Ponce. And if Dr. Ponce is not giving you what you need, go to Dr. Reed. She expects that trajectory, but I always say you want to first begin to build the relationship with the people who are working with your child every day, right? And go in there wanting to partner and tell. And I'm Amanda, I know this answer is probably longer than you expected, but I want to say that, every year I send an email to my friends who have kids in school, and I implore them to write a letter, an email to the teachers that teach their children every day, and introduce your child to them. You know your kids better than anybody else, and you should be introducing your child to that teacher and what their needs are in the classroom. And then tell them that you are there to partner with them to ensure that your child is thriving, is seen and heard in the classroom every day. Because I saw something here which hurt my heart, that somebody said that the general education teachers are not engaging with their child. That's wrong. So you need to be the advocate for that and talk to the teacher, talk to the principal to see how we can make that happen. And you can always reach out to me if you need any advice or advocacy from my end as well. Thank you.
And I
Are you
want to add,
sure that, oh, go ahead, Dr. Ponce.
yeah, and thank you, Dr. King. I was reading a parent, what's going to happen with the children that didn't benefit from, I would say, the science of reading, or they are not reading on grade level. I think that this is a valid concern, something that we are working. As a matter of fact, we met today as a team, all senior leadership, is how we're going to provide that we call closing the gap, because two things are going to happen with children that are not reading on grade level. Number one is we have to close that gap. We will have to build that knowledge on new content knowledge. So this is very important that parents who work with us, what we call parents are partners, are our partners in leadership, in education. We need to make sure that parents understand that we're going to have what we call intervention. Intervention will be in three modalities. Will be a small group intervention where students will receive a pull-out to have a small group intervention. They're going to be intervened with different ways by teacher and also by academic tutors. This is number one. Number two, students will receive within built-in master schedule tutorials, where the children will be receiving tutorials within that time of school. Bell to bell, they're going to be there in the campus, and they're going to be receiving that. But we're going to have other modality. It's going to be after school and Saturday tutorials, where the children will have to receive tutorials after school, start a little bit late, and they're going to be also Saturday tutorials. Transportation will be provided to the children. Something that is I think that has been the biggest concern for Superintendent Reed as well, is the EL student, English learners. And I think that that's just one of the main reasons why I'm here. I have been an advocate for all children. I love all children. That the one that have been in my heart, because that represents me as well. My struggles and every are the English learners. We have English learners here that from different countries, not only from Latin America, we have from Africa, we have from Asia, we have from Europe. So everybody who are EL. So several things we're going to happen. We met with, I know you, I think all of you know Mr. Sloan Presidio, our Chief Academic Officer. His office oversees the ESOL department, multilingual. We have been working together on a plan how we're going to actually make sure that we provide the support to the children, and making sure, because two things for those children is they need to acquire the language, but at the same time, they need to acquire the SOL, the standard of learning that they need for the grade level. So we had to make sure that we provide those two. So there are some strategies and professional development that our ESOL teachers will be receiving. Something else that we are planning to do is to two things: intensify the visits and the support that we give to those schools where they have a large number of EL students, and frequency is how frequent we go. So we're gonna have that. We have been working with not only with Sloan to make sure that, but also my department, student support office as well. We do have a part of Project Momentum, the school that need extra support. They're going to have a double doses of support, making sure. Now, when we talk about EL students, we need to make sure that it's not only an isolated or siloed, only that department. It has to be every single one. And when I say every single one, I mean every single one, starting from the parent, superintendent, which is a champion for my office, the regions, the principals, the teachers. Every single one needs to be trained, and we to be on the same page how we support that. Because to teach a child that is no, I would say the language is no, English is not her first language, is very difficult. It's very difficult. It's not that we don't understand. It's not that we don't know. It's just that we don't understand the language, not necessarily that standards of learning. So this is something that we will be working. Personally, I consider myself very proficient with the different strategies. That's what I have been doing my whole life, and I'm very proud to be an EL person. And I'm here to make sure that our EL students receive not only the best support, but that they actually acquire the language and they become proficient. Because if they are not proficient, it's more likely that they will not go to university than college. And this is our final goal, is that they are proficient, but also that they are successful in life, that they can exit Fairfax knowing that they had a future, that they're gonna do it. And so I'm gonna stop right now because I get it just, this is my passion.
I appreciate that you brought up the silos, because that is something that we see in special education as well, that it gets very siloed in FCPS into a single place. So the conversation that it really does need to be across all areas is so appreciated. We need that vision in the county, and it's going to be a lot of work to, I think, change the habits that have developed over many years. But yes. it's great that we have leadership in place that recognizes the need for that.
Yes, and I would say I understand about the silos. We have everything. I have been in large division. I have never been in the small, only large. And I can tell you honestly, I said it today, it is not just because I'm working here. This is the best. We have amazing team. We have everything. We just need to work all together. I was looking at, we have all the gears for a sweet machine. I was talking about a watch. We have all the gears to make sure that we just turn at the same time. So this is what we're gonna do. Something that I'm very happy about is that it's no more anymore about my department, your department, is us. We have been like Nardos, I have been saying Nardos is my sister, Sloan my brother, and these are the three largest departments that move everything else. So we are on the same page. It's no more about silos. Decisions are being made across all our offices, making sure that we consider everything so the children can get the best that they can. They deserve it.
Thank you. Dr. Edmunds-Heard, I see your hand. I do just want to quickly follow up because it is 7:40. So just trying to respect everybody's time. Dr. King, I will say, I think you might have gotten a sneak peek at our presentation for later this evening because you covered quite a lot of the points that Amy and I have to share later. Thank you for that. I do think, and this is open to everyone, although Dr. Edmunds-Heard, it might be primarily your department. We have had a lot of questions coming in about the OCR compensatory services reimbursements specifically. I think it would be very helpful for our community to hear an update as to where that process is and what they can expect coming forward.
Thank you. I was hoping that I could squeeze some of that in this evening before we signed off, but and I saw the questions that were in the chat too as well. So I will be following up with my team, with our schools, about the actual provision of the compensatory services, kind of several parts, right? We needed to have the meetings done. We've had many meetings. We also need to make sure that we deliver those services that we said that our students need. So please continue to follow up with your school team on that. As Dr. King said, you're not bothering anybody. Keep following up. We want to make sure the students get what they need. Things that I've heard that are definitely in the works for providing the services is, of course, our teachers. We have many teachers who want to volunteer to serve to get those compensatory services provided to students. So we are actively recruiting teachers and getting them signed up to deliver those services. So hopefully those things will start to get it to fall into place. So that's one of the main things that we've been working on. We are also working on a Saturday school for students, which I think was stood up last year too as well, to deliver some of those compensatory services. And we're also looking at some virtual programming for students that we think that will work well for. So those are the things that I have heard in terms of the delivery of services, the main thing being our teachers delivering the services. And many of them did sign up last year, and we're hoping that they are continuing to come, because many of our schools have already started with the delivery of those services. If you can't get a solid answer from your school teams, please reach out to me, or I can get you in contact with somebody. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me too as well. The delivery or the payment or reimbursement process is one of the things I know people have a lot of questions. We've gotten really bogged down with that. We know it is a big source of frustration. I have been diligently working on this since I got here. I have been working on it. We've put more people, because one of the biggest problems we had is that we needed more people working to process those reimbursements. Our departments are not very, very big, and we usually don't have these large amounts of reimbursements that go through these departments. So even today, I have pulled in Lee Burton, who's on we call it the big finance side. We pulled her in. She's provided us with some additional supports, because even at the school board meeting a couple of weeks ago when Dr. Reed spoke, she talked about us providing more supports in those areas. We've even done more of that over the last couple of days. So we've added more supports. We've also streamlined the process a little bit more. As you know, we want to make sure that we reimburse and reimburse correctly. We don't want things out there being reimbursed for that they don't even fall within the period of time, or we are reimbursing for things that we cannot be reimbursing for. We have to make sure that we follow, the district guidelines as well for that. So of course, there's a layered process in place for making sure that we can get through, make sure that the receipts match up with what is said in the IEP. And all of that is a pretty arduous task, especially for this small number of people who were doing it. So I'll just end by saying we have added more resources starting over the last several weeks. We've added even more this week. We've streamlined the process a little bit more because this is kind of an atypical situation that we are in. And we're hoping that we can really start churning out those reimbursements at a higher rate. So we're hoping we're putting all those supports in place. And I meet pretty much weekly on this that we've been trying to get, because I knew it was a big issue. We have been working on it weekly, and we do apologize that it is taking us such a while to get the reimbursements out to our families, but we are diligently working on it.
If people have questions or need to flag for financial reasons, for example, that their case needs to be addressed like as soon as possible, if they have any concerns, any questions, who should they reach out to at this point?
Well, I'll say that Deb Scott is our new plan administrator, because we've had some people who left too as well, which caused some more delays as well. Deb Scott is our administrator. I would rather they really reach out to me, because that slows down the people who are trying to. I can at least do an initial step and look at where you are, if you have everything. Sometimes our cases, if they're not correct, like things don't align, receipts don't match to what they're saying in the IEP, for instance, then it goes back to the school, and that slows it down a little bit more too as well. We've had many of those cases too, because it was a big endeavor. And the understanding of what needed to be done was different at every single school, even though we tried to make it as streamlined as possible. So I would rather they just reach out to me, and I'll try my best to answer your email as soon as possible, and follow up on your case. But I would say just give us a week or two. We've got these extra people who are in place, and then give us a follow-up, if that makes any sense. Okay.
It does. Thank you. Would you be willing to share your email address in the chat?
I think we got some.
We do, and I can't see. Lauren, I don't have the whole grid. Can you mute? Thank you. If you don't mind sharing your email address in the chat, Oops. Dr. Edmunds-Heard, is that okay?
Sorry, I think I sent that to Catherine Boxer. I'm sorry about that. To everyone. Here we go.
Perfect. Thank you. And then if just one slight follow-up, again, just a contact person question. We have heard from Rachna Sizemore-Heiser that there is a way, if parents have not started the reimbursement process and would like to set up something where FCPS is working directly with the service provider rather than through the family, who do they contact to address that? Because case managers aren't really sure either. So do they reach out to their PSLs? Who do they reach out to?
They can reach out to their PSLs. They should be able. The school team is where I always say to start. And then after that, the PSLs. And we will put some information out to our schools on that too as well. We did talk about it at our briefing on yesterday as well. So hopefully more people will use vendors. It makes it a whole lot cleaner and easier too as well. So, but if the school team is unsure, then reach out to their PSL. Okay. And if they still have questions, they can reach out to me. Okay.
Yes. Would all of you be, I know that there are questions in the chat and that we received ahead of time that we have not had a chance to get to. Would you be open to us collecting them and sending them to you collectively for further responses that we can share back?
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay. Thank you so much for all of your time. If you have any closing comments that you'd like to share with us, now is the time.
I just left my email as well. And I understand, I think there is a parent that put that I'll always call and leave a message and nobody answered. Just keep in mind that we are a huge institution and some phone numbers sometimes can miss or some voicemails can get lost. I would recommend that you email like Dr. King said at the beginning that we do have a chain of command. I think that this is very important that we follow, and especially if you're going to email, if you don't have an email, make sure that honestly, you can probably go to the school, talk with the teacher, then the AP, the principal, to the region, my office, and we do have some working numbers. My email, if you email me, you will see my phone number at the bottom. But my email, I put it there, pretty much I answer. And sometimes now I'm gonna be honest, if the answer that you were expecting maybe is a no, and you were expecting a yes, then that I answer. And that makes sense. It's not always is a yes. There are some people that ask some things that we cannot, either because it's against regulations and we have to follow regulations. But pretty much every answer or question, or if a parent asks for resource, and especially if it's support for the child, we answer those almost immediately, same day.
All right. Thank you so much. Dr. Edmunds-Heard or Dr. King, do you have anything to close with?
I just had one thing to add. I do try to be really responsive to emails. In terms of the compensatory services, though, do give us a little bit of time, maybe into next week before, so we don't get too many emails that we maybe can't respond to as quickly as we'd like. Like I said, we are getting more people in place, and we're hoping to have those people in place really by tomorrow. But checks won't, of course, come the next day if you're looking for a reimbursement. But please know that we are working on it. And even I might just acknowledge the email because it takes time to look them up and then give a more detailed response too as well. But we do try to be responsive to emails when those come to us as well. Someone put in the chat, don't forget about the SPED Ombudsman. We did get some correspondence from the SPED Ombudsman. They have been referring some things to us too as well. So if you don't hear from us right away, they are really great about working with our office. I had a meeting with them just the other day to kind of inform them of where we are so that they could work with parents who are calling too, because we do understand the importance of this reimbursement process, but it is our first time going through this as a district, and we're doing our best to stand this up so that we can be way more responsive than we've been.
Thank you so much. And Dr. King, any closing comments?
I read my emails and I respond. I'm just going to say that, if you need help, I don't have the answers to everything, but I know the people in the system that do. And if people are not getting back to you in what you believe is a timely manner, just use us as resources as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for your time. I know we went quite a bit over, but I know these are really important questions for our community. And I do know that we have even more. So we will compile them and we will share them with you as we are able this week. I know we have a long meeting with you tomorrow, so it may not be tomorrow, but we will get them to you as soon as we can. And then we will also follow up with our membership so that you all have the answers that we receive. Thank you so much for your time this evening. You are welcome to stay for our presentation. We're about to hop into some business. We have some votes we have to pass and then go into our presentation. You are welcome to stay if you like, but we also understand it is a very long day for all of you. So if you need to get off, we appreciate you coming and we hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for having us, Amanda. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Bye-bye.
So as we discussed with Dr. King, communication is really a huge aspect of starting the school year off right. Communication between families and schools, students and parents. Two-way communication is really the cornerstone of family-school partnerships. So some tips for things you may have already done, and if you haven't, now is as good a time as any. We're still in September. There's still a lot of beginning of school year stuff happening. So if you have not yet gotten a letter of introduction from your case manager and you're not sure who they are, please reach out to the school and find out who they are so you can connect with them. If you have, and also don't forget to include your specialists. So at the elementary level, this can include music, art, PE, library, technology teachers. At secondary level, your elective teachers. Connect with anybody who is interacting with your student on a regular basis, who needs to have an understanding of your student and how they will interact with their subject. Just because they may not attend an IEP meeting regularly doesn't mean they're not part of that team. So reach out to them and form those relationships with them so that you have that throughout the year. If you do reach a point where, oh my goodness, like this is happening in, band, I need to have a communication with the band teacher. So you know who to go to, they know you, and you're not starting from scratch in the middle of the year when something has gone wrong. You already have the beginnings of a relationship. If you are able to, get involved with your school. It can take many different forms, especially depending on what school level you're at. Elementary will look significantly different than secondary. But how can you get involved in your school, in your individual school community? Something else that you can consider is being a SEPTA liaison to your school's PTA, or just working with your PTA or school if your school doesn't have a PTA, as an ambassador for students with disabilities. As Dr. King talked about, bringing up that perspective of students with disabilities when events are being planned, so that they're taken into consideration. And then also connecting with your child. I'm sure mine is not the only one, but when the end of the school day comes, after school restraint collapse is a thing. She's held it together all day long at school, and she comes home and she is done. So if you notice changes in behavior, something that you're coming home from school and this is not typical, and it's not a normal, I've come home from school kind of reaction, try to connect with your child if they can communicate back with you to find out what might be at the root of that. If they are in a spot where they cannot communicate with you and they cannot share that with you, connect with the teacher and get some information back and forth to see if you can work together to figure out what's going on and how you can move forward together to support the student. And there we go. As I believe Dr. King said, also an introduction letter is great, and it's not too late in the year to do this. I'm actually going to do this this week with my daughter's classrooms. Consider sending an introduction letter. It can be for your teachers. On the screen is the example of I'm Determined. I'mDetermined.org is a fantastic resource for helping to find self-advocacy tools to help teach your child how to advocate for themselves. This is one of them. They're one-pager where your child can help talk about their strengths, their preferences, their interests, their needs. And that can be a really useful tool in connecting with their teachers. There are also versions that you can create that are intended to be shared with other students. That's what I will be doing later this week. As my child is an AAC user, it's difficult for her to share her interests, her likes, her dislikes, the things she's into with her friends at school the way that they can. So in putting something like that together, it allows her an opportunity to work on that at home with me, share what she would like with her friends, and help encourage those age-appropriate interactions at school, so that they know what she likes and what she's into. And I also put our communication information on there, our contact information, so that, for families who want to get together, they have a way to contact us outside of school hours. And I've already given consent to share that information. So that is one more suggestion. Let's see. This is one of my favorites, and on screen you'll see my personal IEP binder, and I brought it today to put on screen because we are 3 weeks into the school year, and mine is rather large. Diane and I did a presentation a few years ago. It is on our YouTube channel. If you go to youtube.com/@ use the @ FC SEPTA. It is now the featured video on there. There is so much paperwork that comes with special education, even from the beginning of the school year. Like, for everything that's in here is from the start of the school year. There's so much, and having something like this, it can be digital, it can be a binder like this, however works best for you, but having a system to organize this when it comes in so that it's easily referenced when you need it is incredibly helpful. You can watch the presentation for more in-depth, but just as a quick group, like mine has school information, current IEP and medical information, communication, to keep a communication log with the school, evaluations, progress reports, sample work, a copy of the parent rights thing that we get from VDOE at the beginning of every meeting, and then a copy of previous IEPs from this school year only, so I can keep track of changes throughout the year. Just something to help corral all that paperwork. It will be tremendously helpful to you throughout the year. And Lauren, if there are any questions that come up, I cannot see the chat. So if there's anything that comes up anywhere along the way, please interrupt and let me know. Presuming positive intent. And I think this is a little bit of what Dr. King was speaking to too, so I won't go too much into it. But all of us I know that we have all had, and I will raise my hand with this too, we have all had difficult experiences. There have been years that have been fantastic and years that have been more of a struggle. But starting the school year with the positive intent that everyone is here for your student to succeed. Everyone wants to keep that, like keeping the focus on the student and their success. We won't always agree at the table. When we're in IEP meetings, disagreements are going to happen. And in some cases, there may also be barriers in place that staff don't like any more than families do. But keeping that conversation focused on the student and working together is a great place to start the year and build that collaborative relationship from the beginning that can help serve you and your student throughout the year. And I love Lauren's phrase here, trust but verify. Yes. Trust is an important part of this process, but it's also always important to verify the information that you're receiving. If you're ever not sure, come to places like our Facebook group. There's also peatc.org, peatc.org. It's the Parent Education Advocacy Training Center. It's Virginia's federally funded parent training information center. They're a great resource for verifying special education facts and federal policies, state policies also. If it's district specific, just as a tip, the FCPS website has a lot of resources, but it is not the best search engine in the world. Its own search bar is not the best search engine in the world. So try using Google instead and search FCPS and whatever term you're looking for. As an example, earlier tonight, I did FCPS and West Springfield Pyramid PSL, and immediately came up the PSL contact information page from FCPS that had all of the region PSL contact information on it. So just as a tip, Google is often much easier than the FCPS website. So keep that in mind. And like I said, our Facebook group is a great place, is a great resource as well, and a great place to go ask if you don't know who to reach out to. The Special Education Ombudsman, Kathy Murphy, is also a great place to reach out to if you don't know where to go, because that is essentially her job, is to help direct people to the resources that will help serve them. Additional resources that can help. There is a special education handbook for parents. This is online. It is available online, translatable in multiple languages. So please take a look through that. There's also a transition resource guide, a dyslexia handbook, and a twice exceptional handbook. Some of the SEPTA members were instrumental in the reviews of both the twice exceptional handbook and the special education handbook. So definitely please make sure to take a look at those. And then there are also specialized staff. The Family Resource Center, this is the former Parent Resource Center. They renamed themselves and rebranded over the summer. It is now the Family Resource Center. They have so many resources, and the staff there are so willing to answer questions and help you as much as they can. So again, if you need to reach out to someone and talk to and ask questions, they are a great resource. We do have a dyslexia specialist position. I believe the position is currently listed on the site as vacant. But if you Google FCPS and dyslexia specialist, you will get a list of regional points of contact for that. So take a look. If you need that resource, take a look at that. That may be able to help you. The twice exceptional specialist is Nonya Aladameji. Our neurodiversity specialist is Kristen Haynor. The ABA program coordinator is Tina Wilkerson. And then for behavior intervention teachers and intervention and curriculum specialists, my understanding, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, is that those are assigned to your school and your case manager should be able to put you in contact if needed.
Correct.
Thank you. There is also, FCPS is also offering free online tutoring. If that is something your child, that is accessible for your child, that is available. There are also free mental health resources available also. On the mental health aspect, if you do have a child that has a communication disorder and struggles to communicate, there is now a guidance document in FCPS that's been created for school psychologists and social workers to help them connect and be able to communicate and serve those students. So make sure that your school psychologist and social worker have access to that document. If they do not, they can contact Dr. Maria Genova. She's the coordinator for social emotional learning, and she should be able to help them access that. And with that, I am done. Trying to go a little faster to respect everyone's time, but there was a lot covered, and like I said, Dr. King covered a lot of it as well. Are there any questions for anything I've covered here? Is there anything in the chat, Lauren?
I think we are ready for Amy.
All right, Amy Lacrosse.
Hi, my mic or my camera on my computer is being a little wonky and it's kind of going in and out, so I am going to leave it off. So hi, I am Amy Lacrosse. I am the SEPTA Educator Chair. Position used to be called the Teacher Liaison, but as we recognize a lot more than just teachers work with our students, so we want to be inclusive of the language that we're using and make sure that we are including our paraprofessionals, our instructional assistants, our public health aides, and everyone who works to support our students. I'm also a very proud elementary special education department chair of a, fully staffed school, which is incredible and very rare. So I'm very pleased with that. I do not currently have a caseload. So if any staff or any families have questions, please feel free to email me at teacherliaison@fairfaxcountysepta.org. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Staff, I've coached a lot of staff at different schools just because I currently have the capacity to do so. So please feel free to reach out with any questions you may have. Next slide, please. Easy tips to start the school year well for staff. A lot of this is going to be things that we've heard in our education programs. A lot of it is going to be things that we've heard at different collaborative team meetings. But I think it is important to highlight a couple of things that I have found to be supportive in talking with different staff members throughout the county. It is really important that we partner with our students, families, and our colleagues. With partners, thinking about partners as a partnership. It's an arrangement where different parties agree to cooperate to advance or progress in multiple mutual interests. We are all in this to support families, to support students, and to see progress. Partnering with students, hey buddy, what do you want to work for today? Do you want to do math first or do you want to do reading first? Figuring out how to have our students as partners in learning, in addition to our families, in addition to colleagues. I know Amanda mentioned earlier, being sure to include our specialists. Our specialists are educators. They are important members of our community and of our team. And every student is guaranteed to have the same level of support as their general education peers because they are general education students first, and they happen to have a disability that has a barrier to them learning in some way. So making sure that we are partnering with any individual who may provide some kind of service and support to our students. When it comes to presuming positive intent, I'm not going to talk a lot about it because I know we've mentioned it a lot. But if you have a question, if you need clarification, ask. Presuming positive intent, we want to believe the best of people. We don't want to jump to conclusions. We want to take a step back and remind ourselves that I have rough days and I'm not always at my best. If I'm doubting myself, if I'm doubting somebody else. So really assuming the positivity with it while acknowledging this is what I think is right, starting from the idea that a person meant well or was attempting to do their best is something that may make us feel more included and supported throughout the whole process. Next slide, please. Presuming competence. I will read this slide. Presuming competence is an attitude, one that shapes actions in the classroom and includes a default assumption that the student is capable. This, I think, is the most important thing that I've worked on with new teachers, with new staff, with individuals who are new to education. It's a strength-based approach that assumes that an individual with a disability has the ability to learn, think, understand. Students may communicate differently. Students may have behaviors that are impacting them in different ways. But if we are assuming that our students understand what we're sharing and have something to say, it's so important to have that strength-based approach and really come at everything using asset-based language. So often in special education in the county, we need to focus on the deficits because we want to say, this is something that's lacking. Here's what we're going to do to help support and build that up. But if we think about the importance of words and using asset-based language, we have seen in my school building that it shifts the mindset of everybody in the building, including our general education partners, making sure that we are believing in our students and we are sharing, this student is capable of ABC. This student continues to require support for DEF, making sure we're using that strengths-based and asset-based language because words are powerful, words have meaning, and our students are picking up what we're putting down. Next slide, please. Make valuable connections. There are a lot of people in this county. We have some really great advocates available through central office. We have really great advocates available through SEPTA, through this video chat, and through various parts of the county. Be sure that you are making those connections with people who believe the same things that you believe. You're making connections with families. You're making connections with central office staff. You're making connections with your procedural support liaison, with the ombudsman, with your student's educational advocate. Bottom line, we are all in this to support a need and to fill a priority, which is ensuring that all students have equitable access to education. So make the connections that are going to support your mission and your goal. And again, just to drive the point home, trust the information that's shared with you by your administration, by your department chair, by central office, but it's also important to verify that information. One thing that I know that we as an organization have talked about kind of at length over the last couple of years is making sure that all staff members are given equitable information and that the information supports what their peers down the road are doing. I work in Region 4, and I know that when the compensatory service conversation and training was coming down the pike, the way that I interpreted information was different from my neighborhood school, which is 5 minutes away from where I work. So making sure that you have the information, but then you're also verifying that information and making sure that what we are doing is in the best interest of our students and our families. Because at the end of the day, our job is to serve them. So making sure that we are verifying the information that we're given. If you want to reach out to somebody at any point and say, hey, this is how I'm interpreting this. This is my perception of this. Can we talk about it? I am always available to do that. Reach out to different department chairs in your area, different colleagues in your school, and making sure that you've built those connections with people who you will have camaraderie with. Next slide, please. A lot of the same resources that were previously shared are also available. I find it really helpful to read the Special Education Parent Handbook. I also reread the procedural support or the procedural oh my goodness, I can't even think of the word. It's been a very long day. I apologize. But the procedural safeguards that explain the rights of our families. I reread that every year. That is provided to our families. We need to know the information that's in there. The FCPS hub is not always the easiest to navigate, but it does have a search bar that's getting better with time. And if you need to find access to any specific resources, again, please feel free to reach out to me. I saved a lot of resources over the years as bookmarks, so I have them more accessible that I can pull, like information about behavior intervention services, information from our ABA site that's can be a little bit more difficult to navigate. The Family Resource Center is also an available resource for staff, not just families. And again, just feel free to email with any questions, comments, concerns, or if you would like to join me as a partner in being the educator liaison to SEPTA, I would welcome any support there. As board members here can tell you, I am not super shy when it comes to having meetings with members of central office or school board members to advocate for our staff and our students and our families. I would love a partner in doing that. But if not, and you just want to share some thoughts and feedback with me, I'm happy to take the feedback that I'm given and share that with members who may have a little bit more influence than little old me. I don't know if I have another slide. I think that's it there. Oh, yay, grants. Okay, so we talked a little bit about grants earlier. So I'm going to go from the bottom up, because it also relates to this beautiful design picture that we have on the left. SEPTA mini grants. You do need to be a SEPTA member to apply and qualify for a grant. SEPTA is able to offer up to $500 for a mini grant. Before I was on the board, I applied for and received a SEPTA grant to help build independent skills for my Cat B enhanced autism classroom students. And we did a whole cooking class unit, which was amazing. We followed virtual recipes. We were able to answer comprehension questions about what we had done. And it was a really great way to include working on IEP goals in a more functional format. And I was able to do that through a SEPTA mini grant. The FCFT, the Fairfax County Federation of Teachers, also has grants and scholarships available. So be sure to check that link for other opportunities. And then Educate Fairfax used to be called the Foundation for FCPS. They have now rebranded as Educate Fairfax. They also are able to provide grants for teachers. I've also written a grant that was received and approved for Educate Fairfax. So I'm happy to help any staff through writing that grant. It's just a great way to make sure that we are able to provide resources and access to our students that we may not have access to at this time through the county. I used my grant there to make sure that I could purchase accessible materials for all students, because I did have a multi-grade classroom. I had 3 grade levels, and I was supporting 3 different general education curriculums, as well as 3 separate adapted curriculums, so 6 curriculums in 1 classroom. So it's a lot, but I was able to get some additional support and information and resources through that grant. So I'm more than happy to help any staff member write a grant for Educate Fairfax. I'm happy to help you fill out the Google form for the SEPTA mini grants. Bottom line is we work really hard, and these organizations are helping support our work. And it's worth a shot. It's worth the opportunity to apply. I think that's my last slide.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Amy. All right. To help us readjust, because we did have our special guests for longer than intended, we are going to shorten the end of this a little bit. Please do share if you have any questions about anything Amy and I shared in the chat. Other ways that you can get involved in SEPTA, if you are not yet a member, if you clicked that I'm not a paid member, please go ahead and join us. The more voices that we have, the more powerful the advocacy that we do is. and the more people that we can reach. So we appreciate your help in doing that. And if you are not sure if you are currently a paid member, please email Bridget. She is our membership chair at membership@fairfaxcountysepta.org, and she can help answer that question for you. You can join in a committee. We would love to have more voices. And also there are our social media groups. We do have a Facebook group, Fairfax County Special Education group. And from there, we also have an advocacy group if you are interested in joining our advocacy committee. To be committee members, you do have to be a member of SEPTA. So just to be upfront with that. Jenna, I see a question from you.
Hi, sorry, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to get my hand up to see if you were going to have any a time for announcements.
What would you like to announce, Jenna? Go for it.
Thanks, Amanda. My name's Jenna White. I'm the Vice President of Communications for the Fairfax County Council PTA, and we have a upcoming event around school board elections that we are a co-sponsor for. School board elections are obviously very important for special ed. All 12 seats on Fairfax County School Board are on the ballot this year, and the League of Women Voters is going to have a school board candidate forum for the at-large seats. There are 3 at-large members, so I'm going to put that in the chat right now. And I also just realized I need to post it on the Facebook group. There's also, I'm going to put in one more resource that several local groups have done, a candidate guide, and it's available both in English and Spanish. So I'm going to put both of those in right now. So I encourage everyone to vote. PTA, of course, is a nonpartisan organization, but I'm sure any one of us as individuals would be happy to talk to you if you have any questions about candidates or the election. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna, for the reminder. And actually, I do also want to share with our members, we have also submitted a special education specific questionnaire to our candidates. Thank you to Michelle Cades and Diane Cooper-Gold, our advocacy chairs, for putting that together. The deadline for them to respond to that, I believe, is October 1st. It's coming up, and we will have maybe October 6th. It might have moved to October 6th.
Yeah, October 6th.
Okay, so once we have all of them compiled and publishable, we will get them up on our website and have them and push them out on our social media channels and our emails so that you guys can have a chance to read through their answers to those questions also. And we did also have an opportunity to participate and help crafting the questions for the candidate forum that Jenna is referring to. So also join in the encouragement to go join that as well. In terms of the breakout rooms, at this point, we had planned to do full breakout rooms to have some more committee discussions. As an organization, we do have a significant goal this year to increase our committee participation so that we can hear from more voices, increase our outreach across the county because we are still reaching very limited areas, and also help build a pipeline to leadership, people who can come up and will eventually hopefully be interested in being on the board to help the sustainability of the organization long term. Because of the overages, I very much appreciate the time with our special guests and that they were able to answer some more questions. But I want to respect our board members' time and our attendees' time. I will open the breakout rooms for just a few minutes. Please go to the breakout room that you are most interested in so that your name can be collected and future communication can come so we can connect with you further outside of the meeting. We'll keep those open for say like 5 to 7 minutes so that you have an opportunity to go in. And if you want to go to multiple rooms, you'll have an opportunity to do that. And this is even if this isn't a commitment. This is if you want more information about this, if you are in any way interested in participating in these committees and wanting to learn more about them. It is certainly not a commitment. It is not signing your name on any kind of dotted line or anything. So if you are curious, please come for just a couple of minutes so we can help facilitate getting you some more information about that. And our committees are listed here on the screen. We have advocacy, our awards, ceremony that's specifically for the awards nominations and ceremony, the communications committee, educator committee, events and programming, fundraising, membership, military families, our mini grants committee, which will be working to judge the submissions that we're getting, our outreach committee, reflections, which we are participating in this year. Our deadline for submissions will be November 8th. So look for more information on that to come. Our special ed liaisons, our Twice Exceptional Committee, our underserved populations, and volunteers. So if you have any questions or interest in any of these, we encourage you to please just check into that breakout room and make sure that the chairs get your information so we can connect with you further. And I'm going to stop the recording because we're not going to record the breakout rooms. But thank you all very much for your attendance tonight, your engagement, your questions. I hope that we had an opportunity to answer many of your questions, and we will save the chat, as I said, and pass those questions on to our FCPS guests, and we will work on sharing those answers with you as we are able once we get responses. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you all in October for our event that will be led by Diane and Michelle. So thank you very much, everyone.